Hello everyone, my name is Stephen Derek Brown from VPS Securities. Joining us today we have Mr. Leif Schneider, who's the head and country head of the largest German law firm active in Vietnam, specializing in corporate commercial law and also trade law and human resource law. Leif, thank you for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to be on the show with you today.
You've also got a bit of an Australian-German connection, family-wise. Like myself, my mother was born in Australia. Your mother was born in Australia as well. And they both actually lived in southeast Queensland, Australia, similarly as well. You were born in Munich, so you're a Bayern Munich fan. And you've now been here for several years, 2 years as the country head of Luther. What brought you to Vietnam, Leif?
I would call it a coincidence. It was an offer that I didn't decline. I'd been in Asia for a while before. I was in Hong Kong and I was in Thailand for a while. And then from the network that I'd built during my time in Asia, I was offered a job in Saigon, in Ho Chi Minh City, to take over the operation of a small law firm here. And I said yes, and I came here with 2 suitcases and a guitar for the first time in Vietnam. I'd never even traveled to here for holidays. So it was a plunge into the deep end, which I've no regrets about, even 7 years later.
And now you're an expert in commercial law, tax advisory, and also for European firms in particular, German firms especially, looking to set up here and use Vietnam as an ideal manufacturing hub for export and so on. Your areas of specialization, if we have a look firstly at your activities with EuroCham and also with the German Business Association, you're the co-head of the legal sector committee there, aren't you?
Yes, that's correct. And of course, Germany is an important member of the European Union, still one of the largest economies in the world, and I think still also the biggest chamber of all of the different chambers that unite the European Chamber of Commerce. Right? We have 27 members of the European Union, and they're also represented by the national chambers, and the German Business Association has more than 400 members. So it's the biggest contributor to the European community here in Ho Chi Minh City and Vietnam.
Yeah, so your voice, it resonates throughout also other forums like the Vietnam Business Forum, and then the engagements of VBF with VCCI and Ministry of Finance and so on. Where have you seen, in recent periods, we've had the European-Vietnam Free Trade Agreements. So if we look at that, where do you see the primary impetus and benefits for, say, German and European companies to come to Vietnam?
Yeah, that is an important point, because the EU-FTA, the European-Vietnam Free Trade Agreement, marks a milestone in those trade relations, bilateral trade relations between the European Union and Vietnam. We just celebrated the 5-year anniversary, so I think that gives us some runway to look back on, to actually compare figures and compare developments. Of course, Germany, within the European Union itself, accounts for the 2nd largest trade partner. I think it's after Netherlands, I'm not quite sure. But if we compare to what happened before and how the EU-FTA has improved and facilitated trade between the two, because the European Union and Vietnam on the bilateral side, I think there's at least a 40% increase of bilateral trade. So you can see a big difference, which is evidence of a great start. And of course, with these bilateral free trade agreements, they're very complex documents, and they're laws. And of course, there are international laws and treaties which are signed by nations and then need to be transposed into the practice and to the nitty-gritty of import, export, and customs regulations. And of course, both sides need to get used to those new regulations, and there's a lot of paperwork involved, a lot of licensing, a lot of certifications, and then of course a lot of administrative practice. So it usually starts slow, and then of course as the wheels start becoming more greased and the tracks are more beaten tracks than they used to be, things become easier.
Have you found the German companies with major points of presence here already in industrial parks and so on, being able to increasingly take advantage of that for the broader European markets, or as you said, okay, 5 years old, but still, a bit of a learning curve for some?
Yes, and I think this is a big part of what the European Chamber of Commerce and other organizations, NGOs, and also diplomatic missions in that bilateral relationship are working towards, is the implementation of the EV-FTA.
Utilization.
Exactly.
It's there, now use it, right?
It's about educating the people who could take advantage of it, but may not be doing that at the moment to the full extent of its potential. But it's also about teaching the local authorities, or working together with the local authorities, about what the new laws oblige them to do. See?
So that's where people like yourself come in. You can help be the intersection between both countries.
Yes, of course. Like the European Chamber of Commerce is an advocacy organization first and foremost, which gives us a voice in the eye of in the ear of the Vietnamese regulator, and we're lucky to have that voice and to be listened to. So we regularly engage in consultations, and we get involved in certain legal drafting procedures, and we get to comment and of course to support. So it's a very good space to be in, and to help the development and improvement of the Vietnamese trade regulations.
Yeah. Now, if we move on to some of the Vietnamese contemporary legal areas, To Lam and his government colleagues passed Resolution 68. So that's really now like a Doi Moi II, where the private sector will be empowered and supported to drive forward the economy. Your take on this new transitionary era for Vietnam?
I think it is an amazing effort and a great initiative for the benefit of the country to accelerate the development. And I think it is a very smart response to what people generally refer to as the dangers of the middle income trap. Vietnam is, and this is not a secret, and this has been understood by the highest echelons of the Vietnamese leadership, facing a challenge by not growing old before it grows rich. And that means that not only is, of course, this a matter of population and an aging society as societies and economies prosper, but also it means that there's a certain limitation of time. So these transitions towards high-income economy, which is supposed to happen before 2050, needs to happen fast. And that's why these sweeping organizational and administrative and also legal reforms are taking shape as quickly as we can see, especially this year, 2025. We've seen an amazing gamut of regulatory reforms, which all push towards the same direction. I'm sure that we'll address some of the details in our further conversation.
Sure. And we've had, in addition to Resolution 68, other private sector incentives to get the demographic able to be of world scale, world quality, and engage competitively. The International Financial Centre discussions, where Prime Minister Chin is empowered to help lead that. And with that, the hub will be in Ho Chi Minh City, and then there will also be Da Nang. The German business community, very familiar in IFCs around the world, Dubai and everywhere they have presence. How has it been campaigned to date through, say, the GBA or EuroCham to engage with the delivery of the IFC?
Well, again, I believe that our role in this is consultation and advisory. Of course, with having free market economies, with very probate and very internationally developed financial centers of our own, with the free cross-border flow of funds and investment restrictions that only apply in very limited areas of the industry market. This is where Vietnam is going to have to go to really establish an international financial hub in Vietnam, and namely in Ho Chi Minh City. So as a foreign exchange regulated economy, Vietnam has a lot to reform on its regulatory side to enable this and to make itself attractive, and then of course to compete with other international financial centers such as Singapore, such as Hong Kong, Dubai, and the City of London.
Yeah, the City of London recently had a delegation, City of London, the Lord Mayor, and then also City UK, and then also Lord Justice Snowden came as well to like you noted before, EuroCham and GBA advocacy, to also give some consultancy advisory to various ministries and the people empowered to drive this forward. Where the IFCs are looking, they're also looking at foreign expert incentives, lower tax for the employees, and easier visa structures for them to come and go. Your firm's take on this part of the proposals?
Well, I mean, this is the other prongs of the same spear, so to speak, right? Because you can't just attract money without attracting talent. If you're trying to upscale, if you're trying to, let's say, get international businesses more comfortable in trading and exchanging funds and also know-how with the Vietnamese government and the Vietnamese economy, you're going to have to make them comfortable. Because after all, talent and HR, that's people. And people care a lot about the living conditions, they care about tax rates, they care about the ease of doing business, and about how difficult or how possible it is to obtain residence permits and work permits and all of these immigration and labor-related things. So of course, there's a lot of reform required there, and that reform is happening. From a lawyer's perspective, of course, new laws mean new ways to make money, and the laws have always been complicated, and new laws always mean also a bit of confusion and uncertainty, because the practice not always matches the letter of the law. So we're all very excited.
I think since the middle of August, we had the visa update, didn't we? So now it's far easier for foreign experts to get their visas sorted, whereas in the past it tended to be where you worked or wanted to work dialed right down to the very local level, then had to go back upstream again, whereas now it's almost a EKYC electronic visa process. So, and the employer can sponsor that and guide the employee through that as well. So from what we've seen, this was one of the major discussion points, and the other ones we've had is with regard to the capital flow and then also the legal structure. Some were advocating for an inclusion of just basic common law, with then arbitration with Vietnam as supreme, being the sovereign host country of the IFCs. Would you say that that approach would be, that's kind of like the hybrid Dubai approach, which is mostly an international standard legal platform to incentivize people to set up shop, so to speak, and build out their businesses in the host IFC country?
Yes, I believe that, of course, there is, like I said, regulatory reform required. And Vietnam has always been very good at borrowing ideas and learning from other people's mistakes, or let's say other countries' mistakes in this context. So, of course, they're looking for international best practices. And when you look at established international, most successful international financial centers as we have them today, they are in the City of London, they're in Singapore, they're in Dubai, and they're in Hong Kong still. So, and all of those systems are based on common law. So it's not a surprise that Vietnam veers towards that idea, even though Vietnam itself is not a common law jurisdiction, it's a civil law jurisdiction, which has historical and other reasons. And as a German trained lawyer, I'm more familiar, or say more comfortable in the civil law systems. But of course, we also work a lot with common law. The good news about this is, while they have in principle, different approaches to how laws are made and how the legal system works, we reach the same conclusions about a lot of the same problems. So that's why you can make hybrid jurisdictions, and you can then, let's say, pick and choose from the best practices of both systems.
I think that's the approach that they're working to achieve. You know, they've been consulting with various legal jurisdictions from everywhere from Japan to South Korea to Singapore to London. So I think it'll be a bespoke, best fit for purpose for Vietnam. We have quite a unique situation. The average daily trading value now for Vietnam often exceeds Thailand and Singapore put together. So the liquidity is there, the market cap's there, $1/3 trillion USD equivalent. There's over 1,600 companies listed now. Indonesia's got about 1,000. You know, so on many metrics, Vietnam really is the ASEAN standout economy. When we get to the secondary emerging market, there will be a lot of money from fund managers and also the pension fund managers and state sovereigns. So this now puts your German hat on. LBBW banks expanding in Vietnam. Deutsche Bank has presence here as well. Where the money flows come to in Vietnam, traditionally it's been into banks, financials, consumer discretionary, and also into things for textile garment production. The Germans have been heavily invested in all of those areas for many decades, since even pre-normalization of relations. Do you presently see in ASEAN discussions with the German client base looking at any specific areas of interest for them in the Vietnam economy that I've mentioned there, or any others?
Yes, of course. I mean, this year marks the 50-year bilateral diplomatic relationship between Vietnam and Germany. So it's a special year to think about these things, and there are a lot of celebratory things going on. Just this morning, I was at the Opera House in Ho Chi Minh City, and we had a big celebration of our great relationship, looking to the next 50 years of success based on tools like the EU-FTA, which obviously makes market entry easier and facilitates the entry of European products into Vietnam, but of course vice versa. And that's a fact. Vietnamese exporters of goods to Europe and Germany, of course, have made good use of the facilities as well. So, of course, trading goods and manufacturing of goods and using Vietnam as a trade hub with the region, because the EU-FTA is not the only free trade agreement that Vietnam has. Vietnam has 17 of them.
Correct. Yeah. So the impact, therefore, as a follow-on, we've had the announcement since Q2 this year of the US administration reevaluating trade relationships, and Vietnam's now pegged at 20% for Vietnamese manufactured goods shipped to the USA. Very competitive. You know, if you look at, say, Bangkok at 19, Laos at 40% next door, and then India at the moment has a kind of a combination rolled up to 50. So with the export-focused products that your German client base are looking at, they would probably be refocusing, or did they engage in any contractual front-loading to try to just hedge their bets?
Yes, of course that has happened. And that's not a German thing or an American thing. That's just how businesses respond to uncertainty. Right? So there were conditions that they were used to, and they were trying to make use of those conditions for as long as they lasted. And as far as I understand, also, these tariffs are currently being litigated and already ruled to be illegal by at least one court, an instance. So now they're heading towards the Supreme Court, and who knows what's going to come out of that.
So that aside, the EU with 27 member nations, the German exporters from Vietnam, they can go now import tariff-free. Any other areas where your German client base is looking at, aside from there? Do they use Vietnam as a manufacturing hub for broader ASEAN nations?
Yeah, that is exactly what is happening, and that is where Vietnam has a lot of value to offer, because not only is, of course, a European company now able to enter Vietnam with foreign direct investment quite easily without much restrictions, but also then as soon as you are established in Vietnam, you have access to Vietnam's what I call free trade universe. There's hardly an international agreement that Vietnam has not signed up to. There's CPTPP, there's RCEP, all of these things that the European Union is not a member of, but can avail itself by a direct investment into Vietnam. So a strong foothold in Vietnam means that you have access to the rest of the world, most of the global GDP. And that means that there is a lot of potential, and you can leverage that to your advantage almost regardless of what industry you're from.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, you heard it here first from the expert, Mr. Leif Schneider. Leif, it's been a pleasure to have you on VPS Securities, and we wish your firm every success, because as you noted, the 5-year anniversary of the EU-VN FTA and 50-year anniversary of relations more broadly with Germany and Vietnam, the new things to come, such as IFC and also Resolution 68's benefits for people wanting to engage either in partnerships, JVs, or from an M&A point of view, take over and acquire an existing Vietnamese successful business. You'll probably be kept very, very busy.
Yes, we hope so, and of course that's what we're here for, to be your eyes and ears on the ground in Vietnam.
Yeah, very good. Steve Brown from VPS Securities. Thank you.
Pleasure to meet you.
Thank you. Have a good day.